let's take a look at what that data packet looks like. Let's draw a picture here real quick. So let me go ahead and let me change colors one more time. And let's draw what a typical data packet will look like. I'm going to put it right up here at the top if that's okay. So we can break it down and we can see all of the constituent parts associated with it. All right, this is the first part of the data packet right here. And this part is going to be called the data header. So let's label that. Now in the header, what we are going to have is we are going to have the ability to be able to go ahead, right? And we're going to have the ability, let me just fix one quick thing right here. We're going to have the ability to be able to go ahead and, let me get a slightly, you know what, that's actually not much better. Let me just erase that. Give me a second. I was trying to just make it a little bit easier to see, but that's okay. We'll just get rid of that. And we'll just leave that kind of open, and we'll just draw a line here. It really doesn't have to be a circle. We just usually represent it as a circle. But reality is we can just do this, and this will be just as good for what we're doing. So in this area right here, in the header, we're going to have some little areas that are going to be defined. Think of them as boxes that represent different things that we may want to represent in here. And in those boxes inside of the data header, we have different functional elements, whatever they happen to be. We may have, and indeed we will have, the IP address, the sender and the receiver IP. We will usually have the MAC address, the sender and receiver MAC address if we know what they are. We'll have our TCP flags. We're going to have all sorts of stuff that takes place here. So all that data is going to be up in here. And so when I said we have the MAC address is going to be in one of these boxes somewhere. So we'll go ahead and we'll just add that in real quick. And so MC for MAC address, we may have our IP address sitting over here somewhere. So we've got our IP address right over there. A little bit hard to see that over the black, so let's just go over that, make that a little bit easier to see. And we may have some flags that are set up. Remember, we have the urge and the fin and the sin and the ACK and all that. We may have some of that going on in here. We may have a VLAN identifier in here. It's all sorts of stuff that goes into the header. So we got all that stuff sitting up front. And then in the middle, right behind the header, we're going to have the actual data payload. We're going to have the data itself that we're going to set up, and we're going to put right in here. And so in this middle space, we're going to have data. Let's put a big D there for data, right? DT for data. So that's going to be our data. That's our payload sitting in the middle. And then on the back end of this thing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put just another line kind of coming out the back here. And this is going to be the trailer. This is where we're going to have the LLC, the logical link control information, the checksum and the CRC, cyclic redundancy check, and all the other stuff that goes into error control for us. That's going to all sit out here. And so this part right out here, this is known as the trailer. And in the data trailer, we are going to ensure that we are packaging up the data and giving it some buffering, so that way if anything were to go wrong, we can validate that there is integrity and that we don't have any errors. And if we do have errors, we then know enough to be able to request a resend. So there's our CRC and our checksum sitting there in the back of the data packet. All that's happening in this data packet. That data packet is going to get created as we walk up or down the model here. It's going to either be constructed or deconstructed. And by the time we get down to the bottom and we send that out on the wire, that packet's going to be fully formed. And that's going to allow us to do all the things we need to do in order to be able to move through the model and send data from one system through the wire, through the cable, right, out onto the network and across to the other machine. This is how the OSI model works, and this is what the representation of the OSI model indicates. So it's important for you to be able to know several things here. It's important for you to know all the layers of the OSI model, how they work, in what order, what functionality they represent, the things that are going to be important that happen at each layer. The fact that we have a sublayer or two sublayers at the layer 2, LLC and MAC, important. We need to know the model works bidirectionally, up or down. I could walk through the entire process I just did by turning it on its ear and reversing it and walk up the model. Start at the physical layer where we actually get one of these packets coming in off the wire, and then we read through it to see whether or not it belongs to us. And then if it does, we process it up the model. If it doesn't, we send it back out. We could do it either way. Ultimately, that data packet will get deconstructed, broken open. The data will show up on the screen of the user in front of the application as we move up towards layer 7, and the return from Google that says, here's the link to the TCP/IP DoD model is on your screen, formatted nicely as a hyperlink in blue text, and you click on it, and off we go again. And that's what we would do if we ran up the model from layer 1 up through layer 7. So it's just dependent on how we set this up. Ultimately, we should also understand the structure of a data packet, the header, the trailer, and the data payload in the middle. And this is going to be a standard format that we use for everything we discuss. So if you're comfortable with all this, you feel that you got a good handle on it, we'll go through and just summarize the functionality in each of these layers on the following slides. But I want to make sure you're comfortable with everything we've discussed. I want to make sure you have a general sense of the high-level review that we just did. So maybe worth your while to take a minute, just pause here, kind of let all that sink in. You may want to run back through what we just discussed, kind of adding that functionality one layer at a time to ensure you got it all. But we'll go ahead and we'll review it right now and make sure that you actually understand it by walking through it formally. Let me just clean up the diagram. We'll get rid of all of my drawing here, and then we'll be able to go ahead and take a look at the next layer here that we need to go through. Let me just go in here real quick and do this. Say goodbye to everything, and like magic, it's all clean and clear again.